What's good, family? It's your boy Old Soul J. Welcome back to the channel. It's a special day. It's a special day because this will be my third presentation. My first two presentations are my favorite videos that I ever made. This one might top both of them. Now let's get straight into it. We're not wasting no time. The balance of the divine masculine and feminine plus the connection to the light body. All right, family, we getting deep in this video. We are getting deep. Now, the first two presentations, even though I did give a lot of game, gave a lot of knowledge, not a lot of people really know for real. But in this video, it gets even deeper. This is even more, I guess you could say, unknown knowledge. All right, so let's get straight to the first slide. The first slide, the return of the divine feminine. Yes, family, ladies first. We're going to talk about this first. So guys, big thing I want to mention here, right? The reason why I'm doing this presentation, it's all going to come together in the end. But the big reason why I'm doing this is to, first of all, people have a false idea of what it truly means to be a divine feminine and what it truly means to be a divine masculine, right? And we're going to break all that down. So as you see here, the male has been regarded as above the female. This agenda has been supported through many religious texts for centuries. Like, this is obviously clear, right? You see this in all religious texts. This is why there has been a pendulum swing of feminine movements in recent history. This is a natural cause of imbalance, right? Or this is a natural effect of imbalance, I should have put. The pendulum will always eventually weigh on the other side. The oppression has led to global expression, right? So basically what I'm saying here is the oppression of the feminine, right? The feminine woman, the oppression of her over centuries has led to a pushback. This is just like when a parent is so strict, that's when a kid becomes really sneaky, right? It's the same type of dynamic here. The sneakiest kids be having the strictest parents. They literally are oppressing their children's freedom. So now the kids are going to find a way to get their freedom, and this is now over. It took a long time, but now you see what has been happening with all these movements. We're going to talk more about that. But now, this is the reason why God is usually referred to as he, as if the creator of the universe has a gender. Now, a lot of that has to do with religion in itself, but even people who are not religious, they always refer to God as a male, as him. Why do we do that? That is because generally a person perceives the world to be dominated by man. And y'all know the song, "This is a man's world, but a man don't mean nothing without a woman," somewhere along those lines. In the current day and age that we live in now, men are the more dominant, I guess you can say, right? And even when it comes to a relationship, the relationship dynamic, they are meant to be a more dominant force in that relationship. But there still has been a huge amount of mistreatment when it comes to the divine feminine, right? So look, let's get into why this is very necessary for the divine feminine to return. When I say the divine feminine return, it's not just about women, it's about that energy, family, right? So look, the rise of the feminine is necessary for the rise of the emotional body, as the emotional body plays just as much as a role in your reality as the mental does. Right? And mental is more associated with the masculine. So this is why you have seen movements through the past several years that are not just about the woman validation, or it's not just about women, but the validation of a man's emotions. Emotions is feminine energy, right? It's okay for men to cry, or it's okay to go to therapy. These are more so recent movements that have been being pushed, that has been the energy in the planet has been pushing. When there was a time where it was looked down upon. All crying is a release of emotions, right? Going to therapy, there's a lot of motherfuckers that need therapy. A lot. I would argue that it's more men than women. These things are now normalized as the collective has paid more attention to emotional wellness and healing. This is feminine energy. So when we talk about the return of the divine feminine, we're more so talking about the return of that feminine energy. Now, nobody's telling the men out here to be soft. Men, or just people in general, have had a misconception of what being soft really is, or what it means to be soft, or what it means to be a man. It is important to be in tune with the emotional body in order to balance the connection of mind, the logic, body, soul, and the heart. See, you hear mind, body, soul all the time, but you don't hear heart. Because, a lot of times people will joint the heart with the soul, right? Because emotions are a spiritual thing in itself. But really, it's its own entities, his own body. The rise of the divine feminine challenges religious structures and the hierarchical teachings that creates disconnection from true divinity. It's an agenda going on here, family. And we're going to talk more about the agenda going forward later in the video. But understand this, family. Balancing the energies are key. So when you are pushing the agenda and you're trying to have population control, the people that you are trying to control, you are doing everything you can to keep them out of balance. One of the things to keep them out of balance is not only do they, let's say they'll treat a certain race better than another race, so the race that's getting the worser treatment or the lesser treatment has resentment for the other race, even though they might just see a person, they might not know them at all, but because of how they look and what race they fall into, because race is an illusion, family, but the color of your skin is an illusion. But they might see a person, and because of the race they fall into, they resent them. This creates separation. If the collective is separated, then there is no way for us to truly ascend and grow. There's no harmony with separation. And this is why you hear divide and conquer. That's only one way they use separation, but they also use another way by sabotaging the divine feminine energy, which automatically brings everybody out of balance. Because there's man and there's woman on this earth for a reason. There are two sides to one coin for a reason. If there's separation, if there isn't harmony, then everyone's out of balance and everybody's all messed up. Next slide here. Divine feminine power. The divine feminine has the power of quiet resilience. We can't sleep on the divine feminine, family. Listen, before we even get into the balance and the harmony, before we even get into the divine masculine, let's highlight the attributes of the divine feminine power and why this is important. The divine feminine has the power of quiet resilience, grace over force, comfort and vulnerability, emotional depth and intelligence, and self-worth. A divine feminine woman is the true embodiment of wisdom. The source of the word wisdom comes from Sophia, the goddess of wisdom. The word philosophy comes from the Greek word philosophia, which means the love of wisdom. So wisdom is a direct embodiment energy of feminine energy. Family, we have to understand this. Please understand this as you watch this video. Every human being has both divine feminine and divine masculine energy inside of them. It's just that if you incarnate into this realm as a man, you're supposed to embody the divine masculine more. But if you embody the divine masculine side of you and neglect the divine feminine side of you, and not only that, you mistreat the woman, you're going to be all out of balance, and vice versa. So look, a magnetic energy connected to nature, not false femininity programming being pushed today. So understand, family, there's always an agenda going on, right? So in every which way, they're coming at you from every angle. And when I say false femininity, I am talking specifically about, I'm not going to get deep into it, but you'll be able to see or understand what I mean when I tell you this. Who are the famous women today? Because understand, family, we're still in a time where a lot of people look to celebrities as examples. These are people that they look up to, that they want to be like, right? You give the money to the wrong people, and now because they have the money and the power, everybody who's coming up will look up to those people. Not to say everybody who has money is the wrong people. I'm not saying that at all. But just look at the music. Now, you see the woman that took over to hit the rap game. Just look at the type of music that they make. You in your right mind know damn well you don't want your daughter listening to that kind of music, being influenced by that type of energy or mentality. Now, let's talk more and highlight more of the attributes of the divine feminine that has been lacking in society. Healing, but it's making a comeback. Wisdom, compassion, receiving, and creativity. Nurturing and intuition are core traits of the divine feminine. When everything is viewed or approached from a purely masculine perspective, it lacks these core traits. In the ancient Nag Hammadi library found in Egypt in 1945, there are several texts like the Pista Sophia, in which the divine feminine is seen as the creative power in the universe. This is why good looks is heavily considered a feminine thing. Right? So when I put pretty boys in parentheses here, is because generally a man doesn't like to be called pretty. Or if a person sees a pretty boy, they automatically associate them to be soft, right? Like a woman. People perceive that physical representation of sexual energy as feminine because sexual energy is creative energy. And women embody that. That attractiveness. This is why women are usually heavily focused on their looks as society sees their value from such. Of course, you have a true divine feminine who doesn't just see it like this, but the average person views a woman's value based on her looks. And this is exactly why a woman is conditioned to care so deeply about her looks. And it's not just a condition, it is a natural thing as well, because they are the physical representation of that sexual energy. They are meant to attract, so they are meant to be beautiful. You know, looks is part of their identity. The purpose of sex is to create. So when we talk about that attraction, that physical sexual attraction, right? And this is why they call pretty boys or just good looking guys, they treat them as if they're women. Or let's say some pretty boys may, and look, and some of it be true. Some stereotypes have truth to it. Some pretty boys do embody more feminine energy than a less attractive man. Let's just call it what it is, right? So yes, the purpose of sex is to create. Women represent that creative energy because they are sexually attractive. Like, women are sexually attracted to men, of course, but y'all get the point, right? Let's move on. The toxic agenda. The feminine energy of the collective has been in a traumatic state. That state is adapting to toxic programming, aka environment, by following suit of the oppressor's agenda. This is the same thing a victim of abuse does when they respond to an abuser with trying to please them as an attempt to be shown mercy. Over time, the victim loses sense of being a victim and defends their abuser. This is the same way how the collective has responded to our former oppressors by following suit with the system that is designed to enslave us. Unconscious beings defend the system. When you are that deep, you do not have the awareness to recognize what has led you to this, and it is the enslavement of your ancestors. Most of humanity's identity is shaped by belief systems which are shaped by their programming and their ancestors' programming. So over time, your ancestors were forced to participate in this system. And as it got dumbed down through generations, as people kept having kids and their kids were born into a certain system or reality or whatever you want to call it, a certain environment, that's the word I was looking for. As they were born into a certain environment, they adjusted. That's all they knew. And eventually they accepted it. And then as time went on, as the generations went on, it became normal. This is called master manipulation. Over decades, over generations, it's master manipulation. People following suit and feeding into and believing or supporting the oppression of the divine feminine is strictly programming. Any divine masculine man, any man on a higher consciousness respects and appreciates the feminine energy. Period. Right? So look, our former oppressors have deliberately influenced the imbalance of human, masculine and feminine energy, the imbalance of the human, having us trying to please the dominant energy of society in order to avoid punishment. Understand, family, in the past, it was like you were avoiding getting whipped, beat, killed, jail, whatever it was. Now your punishment for not following suit with the system, you might not be able to get no food, you might be homeless. It's just more smoke and mirrors now. Before they were just straight up about it. But now, to avoid retaliation, it's easier to mind control and trick and fool, especially over time, where you don't even really understand, as they change the history and all that, things of that nature, you don't even understand what your ancestors were going through. Now here I have this slide. I'm gonna go through this really quickly because I don't want to spend too much time on this, because now we're about to get into the masculine and how they've been treating the masculine. As you see here, I got emasculization. These are all famous comedians dressing up as women. You got to understand, for me, I don't want to spend too much time on this because this is not as important as the other things I am talking about and will be talking about in this video, but it is worth a mention. All these movies, I seen them as a kid. Now, not everyone is going to be directly affected by that, but the whole point of these things is because once you're at a certain age, you can't really be programmed like that. Well, yes, you can, but the programming is the strongest as a child. So these types of things is a straight slap in the face to masculine energy. Do I need to say why? I don't think I really need to say why. Now some people might say, "Oh, Dre, it's just comedy, it's just funny, it's not that deep." It is that deep. If you can't see it's that deep, there's a disconnect going on. Take out the head and the rest shall fall. Now we're really getting into it when it comes to the men. Take out the head and the rest shall fall. The divine masculine must overcome the programming of the matrix. The divine masculine is heavily targeted to be programmed out of balance because of his natural ability to lead. The matrix makes a man think that to be masculine, you must be emotionless, which in itself takes you out of balance because every person has 4 bodies: the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and the emotional, like I said earlier in the video. Lust is one of the biggest and most effective tools used as a weapon against the divine masculine. Too much focus on lust keeps a man out of his higher energy centers: the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. When you are in lust, you are resonating in that sacral chakra, your lower chakras. So this is why they push, as you see, I got this picture here. This is why porn is so accessible. This is why they say sex sells, right? They already been playing with your lustful energy from the start, because people are lustful. We're lustful beings. And when a man doesn't embody the emotional feminine energy as well as strong as a woman, and the reason why I say that is because I do believe that women get as lustful as men. But the reason why men embody that lustfulness more, they act on it more, is because they're usually more disconnected from their emotional body. So they're moving like an animal. It's more animalistic urges. You don't have to, a man doesn't have to be emotionally satisfied to want to have sex with a person or to be lustful. Like a lot of times a woman's making her sexual choice, even though she feels lust, it's deeply connected to her emotions. So she's not going to just sleep with a person who doesn't make her feel good emotionally. You feel what I'm saying? So this is why it's easier to manipulate men with lust, because they going straight off of looks most of the time. When it comes to dealing with a woman, then that's different. But when it comes to just having sex, they're going straight off of looks. They don't give a damn what she got going on. Now look, obsessive lust keeps a man's spiritual energy locked into the root center. The overconsumption and societal push of PRN, right? I ain't gonna say it again because I know you're too funny about that, has exploited a man's will. This is the #1 way to keep a man from reaching his full potential, family. Absolutely. Remember, I said it so many times. Your semen is your life force energy. If you're just wasting it, it's liquefied light. If you're just constantly just wasting it to a screen, you're wasting that vital energy. It's vital energy. It literally mixes. We're gonna get more into that later, family. A man must master thyself, right? So look, the divine masculine must master his inner authority in order to take the role of leadership. Would you want a person to lead you who's beating off every day, who can't control himself, who's resonating in his root animalistic urges and just reacting based off of his urges like an animal? Would you want somebody like that to lead you? No, a person like that is easily manipulated. They have no control over themselves. Now look, he has been fooled into being ego-driven and has become a puppet for society's agenda and separation. They bait you with equality, which leads to oppression, right? They try to make it seem like, oh, you go to college, you could get this job, you have an opportunity to be with your oppressors, to make as much as your oppressors and things of that nature, right? Granted, what is the #1 way that most people are actually getting that rich these days? By making money outside of the system. Even if you have a good job on the system, you still face some type of level of oppression, majority of people. This being because in order to feel equal, you must conform to the parasitic environment and programming which most fall victim to. Now, family, I don't know if this is going over your heads or what. This is exactly why when they tell the man, all right, you could go to college, you get a good job. They basically told you, do this. They set up a system for you that's going to keep you enslaved and keep you in the rat race and the cycle of the system. And they paint this picture like, oh, if you work hard, you go to college, you'll make a good living. But now you're in debt. Now you're spending all your time and energy working for the system. You are disconnected. It's not about the money. For real. Because if you really could make enough, you wouldn't have to work every day. Working every day keeps you out of your energy. It keeps you disaligned and unbalanced. And this is exactly how they want it. And they dangle the carrot to make you think that it'll be worth it in the end. They got you playing along with the system when you ain't gonna get nothing from it. For real. What they give you is a means to survive. That's the bare minimum. You slaving to survive. And this is why so many people aren't happy these days. There's so many reasons why. Understand what's really going on here. Nobody really or I'm not gonna say nobody, older people still do, of course, but a lot of young people, they don't believe in the system, they don't trust the system. And I feel like a big reason for that is social media has exposed their minds to the possibilities of what you could be doing, or how much you could be making, or what other, the comparison and all that stuff going on too. You comparing yourself to others. A lot of them has seen what their parents, their grandparents, all these people, what they got out of the system, and it was really just survival, the bare minimum. An average person, their soul ain't resonating with that. They ain't come down for that. They came down to make change for real. That's really what it is. Or to cause some ruckus. You know what I'm saying? So at least in the future, some change happens. Now look, this disconnects you from spirit, hence why so many men are spiritually dead. Facts. I offer you religious programming to strip you of discernment, right? The programming, they tell you. I said this in a recent video. If I give you a book that gives you all the answers, but I lied in the book, you're not gonna look anywhere else to actually find answers you can find on your own. If I give you bad food and poison, and I tell you it's good for you, you'll believe me. When you have a kid, right? You have a child, they believe anything you tell them. Certain things are easier to believe, so there's certain things that people grow up their whole lives believing. But it was a lie. And now that's where you don't have no discernment. You're following suit with the system. You think they got all the answers for you. You think that they're taking care of you. They're fooling you. Look, they trick you into using your natural ability of logic to reject the metaphysical. They paint the metaphysical when metaphysics is just science. It's just science. And we're going to get into some science today too, family. They paint the metaphysical as some woo-woo, magical, mystical. It's all programming. Science is proving metaphysics. Metaphysics is science, really. But scientists are catching up. They're starting to realize things, because that has a lot to do with what age we're stepping into. We're stepping into the age of Aquarius. Things are coming to the light, family. But that's what they've been doing. So look, your logic is actually meant to be used as a bridge for the metaphysical and science, for the spiritual and the physical. You're supposed to bridge them together, which is exactly what I'll be doing on here. Now look, let's get into it. True masculinity. Now before I start reading about the true masculinity, I got this little picture here, family. The wounded masculine, emotionally unavailable, controlling, insecure. People be talking about women being insecure. I'm telling you right now, in today's day and age, men are way more insecure than women. Women may be insecure in the sense of, because we live in a generation where most people are insecure, but women may be insecure in a sense of their looks, right? Some women, right? Because they care deeply about their looks. Men are insecure about their whole masculinity because you're not really a true masculine. You're not a divine masculine. So you're out of balance, and deep down subconsciously you know it. For the most part, a divine masculine isn't insecure for real. They judge others, overly aggressive, or just as aggressive, but I wouldn't necessarily say just because you're a little bit aggressive means that you're wounded. Overly competitive, a bully, abusive in relationships, and manipulative. Right? Sounds about right. So a healthy masculine is secure in who they are. He's honest, he's humble, he's accountable, he makes decisions, right? He's decisive, he's confident, he respects boundaries internally and externally, he takes risk, and he has no fears. Right? That's from the picture, but now let me read to y'all what I wrote here on this slide. A true divine masculine does not buy into following the status quo through cognitive dissonance. Now, I put the definition on here just in case you want to know really what cognitive dissonance means. Mental discomfort that occurs when a person holds beliefs or opinions that are inconsistent or that conflict with an aspect of their own behavior. The average man, they are trying to follow the status quo and not being their true selves. They buy into the conditioning of what it means to be a man. And that's why most men are depressed. All right, now look, in a surface level worldview, right? So look, a divine masculine is meant to transcend past toxic masculinity, which is toxic to himself and everyone around. They are meant to influence growth, unlike most men who perform for the world stage. Mindless, egotistical behavior that is falsely perceived as divine masculine. People who try so hard to be tough are the perfect example of this. People who are always trying to prove themselves to others is the perfect example of this. It's okay, it's good to have some type of pride, have some self-respect, but a lot of people just be performing. They trying to paint a picture in somebody else's mind of who they are instead of just being who they are, right? A perfect example of this is the alpha male / red pill community. A bunch of soft men trauma bonding based on heartbreak and rejection from women. Sorry to tell you, if any of my viewers, you are into the red pill, alpha male content, I'm sorry. It's the truth. And I done seen a lot of those videos. The only good that comes from it is discipline and self-respect. Sometimes they do have good points. Sometimes they do talk about divine masculine traits. But for the most part, they're always talking about women. They all got some story about they got cheated on and blah, blah. Yo, bro, people cheat. It can happen. It can happen to anybody, right? People have sex. Sometimes relationships dwindle. Sometimes women use men. Sometimes men are just horn dogs and they fall victim to their lust. These things happen. When I say soft men trauma bonding, honestly, it's soft to let something like that fuel you. But, you know, they let things like that fuel them through the pain of it to, you know, build themselves up. Man, I don't need to get my heart broken to work out. I don't need to get my heart broken to be focused and locked in. I understand it. Trust me, I get it. I get it. But that's not divine masculinity. That's little boy behavior. We ain't even gonna get into it, family. I don't even want to give that topic too much time on my video or even on my channel, right? So let's get back into it. A true divine masculine shows up for the divine feminine, recognizing her oppression. The wounded masculine opposes and belittles divine feminines. Opposes and belittles the divine feminine's redemption and return to power through insecurity, disregarding the mistreatment, the obvious mistreatment of the feminine energy because of the wounded man's own pain. For a man to truly become a divine masculine, he must also embody the attributes of the divine feminine. This goes both ways. The divine masculine is meant to embrace truth above ego. Toxic masculinity protects the ego above all else. Let's move on, family. Divine masculine power. The divine masculine is the standard for control, boundaries, conscious action, focus, logic, structure, and direction of objectivity. He must be centered and tapped into all of these forces. The divine masculine is supposed to take the non-linear properties like mood swings. It's not just mood swings, it's just the feminine energy. You know, their energy is kind of sporadic. A divine masculine is supposed to take that energy, those properties of the feminine, and transmute it into linear to create order out of chaos. They want a man who got shit under control. That's a divine masculine energy. Like, that's why I put it first, because control is very important, because you help bring that structure. The masculine energy helps bring structure to feminine energy, right? The mission of the divine masculine in this day and age is to restore the true masculinity and bring it back to a natural state. The divine masculine has a mind of his own and is a sovereign being, right? Authority over himself. He is tapped into his divine feminine side. He understands that as a man, embracing your divine feminine energy will only strengthen your divine masculine energy, right? And remember, let's not forget what is that divine feminine energy. The divine feminine energy: quiet resilience, grace over force, right? Comfort and vulnerability. Because really, if you're not comfort, listen, there's a balance, right? That's why you embody the masculine energy more than the feminine. But a lot of times people are just afraid of being vulnerable just from something as small as judgment. That's soft, if you ask me. They don't want to be perceived weird. They want everybody to think that they're that, you know what I'm saying? That they're that man. They're the man. When they don't think that about themselves. Emotional depth and intelligence. A man without emotional intelligence is probably the most egotistical, toxic person. It's ridiculous. They act like fools. They act like animals. A man without emotional intelligence is an animal, right? So look, an awakened man's destiny is to transform himself into a true alpha, not the BS you see in the media. A strong, gentle force that doesn't intentionally inflict harm, but does not take or accept any BS that comes his way. With great power comes great responsibility. The divine masculine does not abuse his power, but he also does not fear it. So it's about being capable, right? Nobody's telling you to be soft. Based on what I'm already been telling y'all, and based off your own common sense, you should be able to tell what is toxic and what is actually masculine. This is why I feel like it's important for every man to be physically active in some type of way. You gotta work out. You gotta have some type of experience in fighting, I believe. That's just me. You gotta have some type of combat sports experience or something right? Because you gotta have the confidence within yourself that you're capable, you know what I'm saying, of defending yourself or your people if you have to. But you're not looking, right? Because people, you know, hurt people hurt people. A hurt person, a person who's scarred, is the type of person who's looking to inflict harm or bully others or just spread negative energy. Just because I said a divine masculine is supposed to embody feminine energy, which is just meaning the wisdom and the emotions and stuff of that nature, does not mean you accept any BS. We know when somebody's playing with us. You don't accept BS that comes your way. But with great power now, guys, comes great responsibility. The divine masculine does not abuse his power. All right, family, let's move on. The division, the theme of division of the divine feminine and divine masculine has been dominant over centuries. We are still deeply in an era where both divine feminine and divine masculine need healing before the collective can balance it all and become whole again. The disconnection from the divine feminine energy is what has led the world to more ego-driven mentalities governing society, wars, and greed. In ancient Egypt, right, women were the shot callers, or they had the final say. I heard somebody say one time, if women had the last say and called the shots, there would be no wars, because a woman is more compassionate. This is why the world, it lacks compassion. Compassion is the key, because what happens with wars is everybody who's suffering, everybody who's the victim, they tell you it's for your country, but people out here killing each other for no reason, for real. But look, we already spoke about the wounded masculine, so we're going to talk about the woman feminine. So look, low self-worth, afraid to speak her truth, compromises her integrity and values, easily attached, manipulative, stuck in a victimhood, waiting to be saved, drowning in her emotions. This is most women today. And the same thing here with the wounded masculine. Stuck in mind, afraid of failure, constant inner and outer conflict, emotional. This is most men. Most men and most women are wounded. And this is societal conditioning. That is the result of it. And it's intentional. You may be thinking like, okay, so how do I be a divine masculine, divine feminine? I'm already telling y'all what traits and what attributes an actual divine feminine embodies. Emotional intelligence, comfort and vulnerability, grace over force, self-worth, healing, compassion, right? Then we can go back to the men. The man is the protector, family. The man has structure. The man has control. The man sets boundaries. The man takes action. The man is focused. The man has a strong logic. He has direction. He has objectivity. The woman is to nurture. So look, let's talk about the balance, family. Dumbing down the divine feminine has negatively affected the divine masculine. The divine feminine and divine masculine balance each other. Without the divine masculine's counterpart, he becomes imbalanced and falls into a state of toxic egotism, right? Every human, like I said earlier in the video, every human has both divine feminine and divine masculine energy inside them and needs to acknowledge both. Although a man should embody divine masculine more and a woman should embody divine feminine more, there still needs to be harmony of these energies within oneself in order to embody their respective energies completely. This is why women physically attract men to approach them. It is commonly more natural for a man to pursue a woman as the woman mentally grasps a man, right? A woman is like an ocean. But if you fall into sea, if you get pulled by the sea, it will slowly pull you out into deeper into the ocean. Before you know it, you're drowning. She got you, right? When a divine masculine and a divine feminine partner together, it is true harmony. A true divine feminine does not disalign a man from being divinely balanced in masculinity. She doesn't shame him or make him feel smaller, nor does she hold him back. She empowers him. The divine feminine is the nurturer and the support that can be seen as his backbone. In turn, the divine masculine supports the divine feminine nature, not force her into disalignment either. The two energies support each other and rise in unity and overcome the subconscious programming that is meant to create the imbalance. Think about this, family. A lot of people's trauma comes from their parents. If a man and a woman were balanced in their energies and they were complete harmony together, that child would have no trauma from his parents. So you can see why they would strike, like I said here, take out the head and the rest shall fall. You knock a man off his his leadership abilities, you take him out of his energy. He doesn't become a leader. He becomes a poor example. The woman falls off as well, as she's already been being pushed down and oppressed for centuries. I always say, men hate when a girl has an OnlyFans, but girls is getting rich off of OnlyFans because men are paying for it. The collective, that's why this is a perfect example of what I mean by it's the man's fault. A woman will adjust to the environment that the man creates, period. Same thing like before OnlyFans, there still are, but hookers, you're mad at the hooker, but they making money. If man were in the divine masculine energy and didn't watch OnlyFans or P-Hub and didn't pay for hookers and things of that nature, they wouldn't be doing it. They're doing it because they're getting rich off of it. This is the world that you created, men. Not to say whoever's watching this does that. You know, y'all get the point. Now look, divine union of opposites. Now this is where we really get to the meat and potatoes, family. Every human being has yin and yang, which is the perfect representation of duality, family. In this dimension, there is duality. The sun, aka the light, the moon, the darkness, hot and cold, good and bad, high and low. These things are all opposites of each other, but are each other's other half. Man and woman are opposites, but are attracted to each other through energy. This is why we feel that creative energy of lust that pulls man and woman together, right? And they literally become one because you are inside of her, man. He is inside of you, woman. Y'all are literally together. Y'all come together as one, literally. The divine masculine and divine feminine don't just complement each other. Together, they are whole. This is exactly why you need the properties of a man to mix with the properties of a woman in order to create a human being. This is the real Holy Trinity. Not that man, spirit, what is it? Man, Son, and Holy Spirit? How is that the Holy Trinity? You see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the agenda of the oppression of the feminine. Obviously, the Holy Trinity is man, woman, and kid. Clearly, that is the only way that we truly create. That is the only evidence that we have of actual creation in this world. Creation is life. We literally give life. Man and woman, two sides to the same coin, yin and yang, come together to create life. The physical representation of creation in this dimension. The orgasm is the Big Bang. Opposites are two sides to the same coin that create the whole. Let's move on, family. Now we really about to get deep. You see these pictures. These pictures is telling you, look, we could do a little quick review, right? So they keep us out of alignment for a reason, right? So I just literally just went over for you how it's kind of clear, right? The universe shows us already that the only way that the human race can even, like literally man and woman, we're two sides to the same coin. We complement each other. We support each other. We're meant to come together. So the whole agenda of you don't need no man don't need no woman, that's all pain and trauma. We are naturally attracted to each other. For as long as you've known, people get together and they have children. And even the people that stay single, at least most people, they're still sleeping with women or men. That energy needs to be satisfied. Obviously, we're meant to be in union, right? So when a man is out of balance and a woman is out of balance, it just creates a whole bunch of toxic energy, and then they push it down to their children, and the whole world's out of balance, right? So the return of the divine feminine is necessary, right? And this time in age, a man is supposed to support this energy by still embodying his own divine masculine energy, still standing tall and firm with sovereignty and self-love and self-worth, while also supporting. We're supposed to have compassion for each other, family. It all becomes harmony. It's crazy to me how a person could be so disrespectful and so hateful towards women when you literally came out of a vagina. You came out of a vagina, but you hate women because your ex cheated on you. You're soft. You're weak. I'm sorry, guys. I'm on one today. I don't know why I'm feeling like this today, family. Guys, I just want y'all to know, like, if you haven't seen my past videos, because you never know who's coming across your videos, I'm just passionate, right? This is all coming from a place of love, even if it may not sound like it, right? This is huge right here, where I spoke about how victims defend their abusers. They follow suit with their abusers. They try to please their abusers. It's kind of sad. Now we live in a time and age where people don't realize this is what has been happening for centuries. The current society that you live in, I'm telling you, them people, the former oppressors, feet kicked up, laughing. Like, oh, it's easy now. They don't see. You have a person's mind, you have their soul. You take a person's mind, you take their soul. We went over what it means to be a true masculine, none of that toxic masculinity. You got to master yourself. And then we talked about the divine union. Now this is important, family, because in the world of duality, there's two sides to one coin. There's dark and there's light. There's man and there's woman. How do you expect to ascend on a higher level? Dark and light is one and the same. You're supposed to create harmony with the woman. Now look, the one, finding thyself again. Unconsciousness of the masses leads to seekers of enlightenment. Separation highlights the importance of unity. So really, family, on a deep level, because now we're really about to get deep. On a deep level, this is all part of God's plan. Once we ascend, achieving true harmony, over time, the universe does it all over again. Because in order for people to seek enlightenment, there needs to be, this is basically the same thing as the pendulum swing. Same thing as the pendulum swing. The oppression of the divine feminine has led to the expression, right? The child with the strict parents leads to a sneaky child who rebels. Unconsciousness in the world leads to people who seek enlightenment. Separation, the agenda of the separation, eventually it starts to highlight the importance of unity, because certain people start to realize, why are things going so wrong in the world? It's because we are disrespecting the natural laws of the universe, and we are taught to do so without even realizing it. If you made it to this part of the video, get your popcorn. Electromagnetic. Now, as you see here, I have man in parentheses for electro. I have woman in parentheses for magnetic. The divine masculine is electric, right? A doer. He's penetrating. Literally, like lightning. That's that yang energy. The divine feminine is magnetic. This is why this goes into what I was saying earlier, how it's normal for the most part for the man to pursue the woman. This is why women usually have way more options than a man, because the man is the doer, the man is the pursuer, right? The women are curvy, they're attractive, they attract the man. Like I said earlier, with the ocean, the water, they pull you in. Just like how when you're in the water and you don't even realize, let's say you're swimming in the ocean, you don't even realize how the current is slowly drifting you this way. Just like how I've heard somebody say this before. He said, seeing a woman that you're really attracted to is like being put under a spell. People will break their necks, stare. They lose complete sense of what they were doing. They move off of it. That's why most women aren't really the pursuers like that. Trust me, they think about it. They give you signs and signals like, hey, that's not in their nature, family. It's not in their nature. There's a reason why I put electromagnetic and why this is important. And remember, we talking about the man is electric and the woman is magnetic. And we talking about this balance, right? Everything is electromagnetic. Everything that you see is electromagnetic. If you're watching me on your phone, it's electromagnetic. On a computer screen, a TV, electromagnetic. Your desk, your couch, everything is electromagnetic energy, right? Once again, this is highlighting the representation of the dualistic world where electromagnetic manifests into two different genders that support each other, like the torus field. The energy around the body, the torus field gives you a binary code of 1 and 0, which is the penis and the vagina. 1 and 0. This is science, family. Now look, this electromagnetic field is what most people refer to as the aura, right? Look at these pictures here that I have here on the right side. Scientists call it the electromagnetic field. It's the aura, family. Remember how I said science is lining up with spirituality? This is scientifically proven. You have an aura. As above, so below. The sun is electric, charging you, while the moon is magnetic, taking away your energy. One of the reasons why humans are supposed to sleep at night. And you also need sunlight to survive. Sunlight is what feeds the plants. We eat plants. We're supposed to be eating plants. But if you just eat animals, what are they eating? Plants. So yes, it's electric. It charges the body. It charges human beings. That's why we're all connected. You feel what I'm saying? Now look, the flower of life here, right? Y'all know this symbol. The flower of life is a top-down two-dimensional view of the flower of the torus field, which is found throughout creation. The heart center of the field. This is why the heart chakra, right? So look, the torus field starts at the heart. The heart chakra is your middle chakra. What's under the heart chakra? The solar plexus. Then you have the sacral and the root. What's above the heart chakra? The throat, third eye, the crown. There's 3 above it, there's 3 below it. When you're in the lower natures, you're more rooted in the physical animalistic nature. When you get into the higher chakras, you're more spiritual. You experience, life becomes more mystical. Your experience is more mystical. The heart is directly in the middle because it's the bridge, and that's the center of the Taurus field. And this is gonna connect very soon of why that is. Pay attention, family. So the heart is considered the bridge between the physical and the spiritual, and is the middle of the 7 chakras. The heart judges what the mind perceives. So a perfect representation to see what a person's heart really represents is how they perceive and how they view certain things. Your heart is what is the judgment. Your mind is just seeing things. Your mind is just calculating things. The feeling you get from what you're experiencing through the mind is the heart. That feeling is the judgment, right? Now let's continue. Sacred geometry. Remember how I told y'all, family, science is lining up with spirituality. Some of these sacred geometric figures here, people are afraid of these things because they don't know what they mean. But these, little do you, I don't know if you know what you're looking at, but this is literally pictures of people's DNA. Sacred geometry is the blueprint of creation, the language of the universe. Now, family, as you see here, I don't know if I mentioned it, these are universes right here. This picture right here on the bottom, they're universes. Sacred geometry. Why does a universe look like that? Why does it look like that? This is in our DNA, family. Why is our DNA so perfectly structured and evenly structured? Why is our face so symmetrical? Why isn't one side different from the other? Why are flowers like that? Like I said, sacred geometry is the blueprint of the creation, the language of the universe expressed through mathematical patterns. It governs the way galaxies spiral, the way flowers bloom, the way DNA is structured. You see the flowers here. Now look, let me read this. This section through the long body of the DNA molecule demonstrates an exceptional relationship between star decagon and the golden ratio pentagram. This is a DNA molecule right here. Semantic frequency. As you can see right here, you're literally seeing geometric shapes inside of it. These are several geometric shapes right here. Look, this is literally your DNA from the top down, family. From the top down. The light body. Right, yeah, now we're talking about the light. Your body is your avatar for the current experience in the 3rd dimension. Death is nothing but a transitional stage from this experience. The consciousness goes while you leave the 3rd dimensional body behind. As the dimensions rise, the more the light is needed for your consciousness to perceive that dimension. There is a version of you that already exists there. This is where the light body comes into play. How to obtain light. All right, family, so look. Light is high vibrational energy. Being in a high vibrational environment is vital. This is vital because, remember we talked about the Taurus field. This energy, look, these pictures right here is literally showing you, you can't see air the same way you can't see the Taurus field, but it's there. Just like how I could breathe in this air, just like how you could feel energy, your aura is around you. Some people can see it, but not everybody can. Most people can't. So your Taurus field, your energy is around you. Your aura is constantly being affected by your environment because your 3 bodies, remember, the physical, the mental, the spiritual, the emotional, all these bodies are affected by your environment, all of them. So being in a high vibration, like positive vibes, remember guys, vibes is short for vibrational. So being in a high vibrational environment is vital. If you're around low vibrational people, or you live in a area where it's low vibrational, or whatever the case is, your aura is going to be directly affected by that, right? You're literally getting your light stripped away from you. So that's why I put that here for about obtaining light. One of the biggest things is like being in high energy, being around high energy, right? Now, another thing, like in a physical way of how you could actually obtain more light, is absorbing sunlight. Now, a lot of spiritual people know about solar gazing. One of the biggest misconceptions about solar gazing is to solar gaze while the sun is up, while the sun is high in the sky. That's dangerous for your eyes. I'm not going to say no names, but I've seen certain people who do that and their eyes are like messed up. They look crazy. But you're really supposed to do it when the sun is setting or rising. And really what you're doing is The sun is constantly emitting. Even if you're not looking at the sun, you're absorbing its energy. So the eyes are the window to the soul. I'm really about to just break it down for you why this does something to your consciousness. Your eyes, what you're perceiving, is conditioning, is programming to your mind. So if you're literally looking at the sun while it's rising or setting, where it's safe to look at it, where it doesn't damage you, it's part of your information that you're taking in. The sun is literally light. It's light. You're taking in light into your consciousness. Remember I said here, the higher dimensions, this is why light is perceived to be so holy. The more you rise, the more light is needed in your consciousness to perceive that dimension. There's a version of you that already exists there. There's a version of you that exists on every level. But your consciousness is here right now, just like how your consciousness goes somewhere else when you go into the dream world when you're sleeping. And you could become more present in that as well. When you absorb light, let's say you're training your subconscious mind to bring in more sunlight, you're literally building that light body. Now, unconditional love for yourself as well is very important, right, family? Because like I said, high vibes. If you don't love yourself, then you're just prone to fall into negative energy. You're going to create the negative energy for yourself. Negativity is literally darkness, and it strips away light. It's the opposite of light. It strips it away. I did say earlier that yes, dark and light, two sides to the same coin. On the higher realms, they are the same thing. The light is born in the dark. But when you're dealing with duality in the world, yes, the balance of man and woman is the physical is important. But the higher you get to the dimensions, the more light is needed, family. So you need to just have love for yourself, because you're just going to fall into negativity. And energy work also helps you obtain light. This is why I've spoken so much about energy work. These practices were literally created to balance your energy. Remember, you got to make the connection here, family, in case y'all not picking up what I'm putting down. Your Taurus field is your aura. It starts at your heart. Energy work is literally helping you balance your chakras. Your heart chakra. If your heart is unbalanced, then your aura is weak. Your heart is unbalanced, your aura is weak. You have no light. You will not ascend. Your heart is unbalanced. You're coming back down here, getting reincarnated. Now look, light is information. Everything is information, family, in case this is going over your head. Everything is information. Everything you perceive is just a form of information, whether it's physical or not. It's information, experience, feelings. Everything is information. Light is a pure form of that information, high vibrational information. If your heart is filled with negativity, the info in your aura, right? The info in your aura, the energy, the light, the energy in your aura is too weak to go higher, to ascend. Then you cannot ascend with the low vibrational energy which belongs in the lower realms. Obtaining light is essentially building a light body for yourself. An avatar, just like this right here, like this body right here is my avatar in this third dimension. Your light body is your avatar for the higher dimensions, or what some will call heaven. An avatar that you can merge with in the realm of light. If your consciousness is so rooted in the negativity or the low vibrational energy, then when you die, you're not gonna have enough high vibrational energy to go higher. Duh. Now, negativity is being dishonest with yourself and not aligning with your divinity. Right? Dishonesty creates falsehood. When you're not honest with yourself, this is why the truth shall set you free. Your higher self, your subconscious mind knows exactly where you lack. If you do not acknowledge where you lack, you can never get better. If you do not get better, all in all, what your higher self wants for you is to evolve. And part of evolving is obtaining light. That's what light is, family. Evolution, high vibrational. Your higher self wants that for you, but if you're so rooted in the ego, you don't know how to take control and be the captain of the ship, you will continuously neglect your higher self. And as you continuously neglect, you have a limited time here in this experience with this avatar. Your time will run out. You'll go back to the soul, but you ain't going up back higher. You're gonna come back and do it again. Because you signed a contract when you came down here. It's like a prison school. The only thing is you chose to come here. So you cannot ascend. You cannot go high. You can't if you don't fulfill the obligation of your contract. And the obligation of the contract is remembering who you are, becoming divine in a physical world, evolving to a spiritual being in the physical world. If you're not ready to be actually spiritual, then fine. You will be physical again. It's really, you're the one making the choice. You have free will. God is waiting on you. Basically what I'm saying. Now look, a balanced heart. I'm breaking this down for you from my own logic. But let me tell you how the ancient Egyptians, they really knew something, family. A balanced heart is key when it comes to merging the consciousness to the higher dimensions, right? I just went over why that's important. One cannot have a balanced heart if their consciousness is so deeply rooted in the matrix's programming. This is why in Egyptian mythology there is a heart weighing ritual in the afterlife that involves Anubis placing the deceased heart on a scale against the feather of Mayat, goddess of truth, order, and balance, overseen by Thoth to determine the passage to paradise, aka heaven. So basically in Egyptian mythology, what they say is that when you die, your heart gets weighed on a scale to see if it's balanced. It needs to be balanced in order for you to be worthy of being in higher dimensions. You think you're going to be in the higher dimensions when you haven't even healed yourself? You don't have the sovereignty of oneself. You don't know how to... What do you think divinity is? How do you deserve to experience a higher realm of dimension and you don't even treat others with compassion? Life is literally testing you to see that if you don't know, if you come down here with amnesia, how are you gonna act? How are you gonna treat people in the world? How are you gonna treat yourself when you're just coming down here in a physical form without the knowledge of your true divinity? Will you follow your intuition and find your way back to divinity, or will you adapt to the animalistic behaviors of the physical? The light body vehicle. Yes, family. We finally got to the Merkaba, as you see here. This middle picture here. The Merkaba, energy centers that create sacred geometry form in your energy body. They already exist around your aura/torus field, right? So look, before I get into the correlation of the Merkaba, the torus field, and the flower of life and these geometric symbols, and how these geometric symbols show up in your DNA and how it correlates directly to light and aura, right? The science of your divinity, of your energy. Let's talk about the religious aspects that talk about this. Now, before I read this, these pictures here are literally the flower of life through ancient cultures, but really here I'm talking about the Merkaba, but you're going to see very soon how these connect with each other. Ancient Egyptian mysticism. Ka means life force. Ba means your soul's individuality. And Mer means divine light. Egyptians believed through spiritual mastery and inner balance, the soul can use the forces of the Merkaba to ascend beyond the physical realm. Now, family, I just told y'all about light. Everything that I was using, all this information, I'm using science. I'm using science and intuition and sense and logic. But then, it aligns with what the ancient Egyptians believed as well. You gotta remember how old the ancient Egyptian mysticism culture was. And how they knew about this. They knew about the flower of life. They knew about the torus field. They knew about the Merkaba. They knew about these things that scientists are learning now. Now, in Hebrew culture, they also talk about the Merkaba. The word Merkaba literally means chariot. You can find this in the book of Ezekiel, the chariot of fire with beings of light and energy. They literally told you that, remember, we said the Merkaba is the divine light vehicle. In the book of Ezekiel, they literally talk about beings of light using a chariot. Merkaba in Hebrew means chariot, one of the oldest languages. Put the pieces together, family. Light beings traveling through a chariot. Were they traveling through an actual chariot? Probably not. It's just a representation of the energy around the aura that obtains the light in order to go to different dimensions. In Hinduism and Vedic texts, deities use chariots to travel between worlds. This is symbolic to traveling through realms. So Hinduism, Hebrew, and ancient Egypt talk about the Merkaba. Remember, and I said y'all, spirituality talks about this. Science is lining up with this. Come on, family. The truth is coming to the light. No pun intended. The correlation. So you might be wondering, Jay, what the hell does the divine masculine and divine feminine have to do with the light body? If you've been paying attention, you see how I said the balancing of the heart. Then you also see how I said that the oppression of the divine feminine has led to the imbalance of both the divine feminine and masculine. How the man falling under toxic programming has led to the unbalance of his divinity and also the divinity of the divine feminine. And now they're attacking the divine feminine because they knew the rise of the divine feminine is coming, which is why you see the type of message that's being pushed in the music when it comes to women. Now you see the result of men being in their animalistic, lustful urges, allowing women to make a living or for selling their body. Now, there's nothing new under the sun. Things like this have been happening. There's a rise and there's a fall, but the fall was a long time ago, so we're in a stage where we're entering the rise. So look, the reason why we have to go over that first, a human being has to understand the dynamic of their energies, right? So what is the Merkaba, right? The Merkaba is intersecting tetrahedrons, 3D triangles, spinning in opposite directions that create two different energy fields that comes together. So the Merkaba, as you see in this picture right here, these two 3D triangles, they spin in opposite directions, right? And when they spin, this is the energy that they create. This is why I said the flower of life, because remember, the flower of life is a top-down, two-dimensional view of the torus field. This is why the flower of life is connected directly to the Merkaba, because the Merkaba is the motion. The torus field is the energy created from the Merkaba. Remember, I said the torus field is your aura. So activating your Merkaba is how you increase your aura power, or it's one of the ways at least. The upward one symbolizes, right, the up, remember I said it is two tetrahedrons, right, the two 3D triangles. The upward one symbolizes masculine energy. This is why we had to go over the masculine and feminine energy, because you have to understand that we are two sides to the same coin, and we actually need each other to create balance in this world. And like I said, every man and woman has divine, they have masculine and feminine energy inside them. The Merkaba is an exact representation of this. The top part of the tetrahedron, which is the Merkaba, is in every person, represents the divine masculine energy bringing down divine intelligence. The downward one symbolizes earthly intuition, feminine energy, wisdom coming up from the earth. I kid you not. If you have ever been with a divine feminine woman and you are walking in your divinity, this is the natural dynamic amongst each other. Shout out to my lady, because I know she's watching, and she would tell you herself, when we have deep conversations, this is exactly how the dynamic of our relationship is. This is natural law. This is the way things are supposed to be. When you step into your divinity, this is the energy you naturally step into. The combination of the divine intellect, right, that fire, combining with the earthly intuitive wisdom, that water activates light. Representing the balance between opposites like masculine and feminine, it mirrors the harmony of balancing sides working together. Look at this picture here on the bottom. The top triangle, fire and air. Mind you, generally, like a woman could get on top, of course, too. Generally, what's the most popular position in sex? Missionary. The man, fire and air. The woman, earth and water. The penetrating force, the wet vagina. Then they come together and create the divine light vehicle. How to fuel your Merkaba. Deep breathing while visualizing being in the Merkaba. Visualization is very powerful. You have to understand that, you know what, this is why they call it daydreaming. I've broken down in the past how dreaming, your consciousness is perceiving a different dimension. This is why people, when they start to lucid dream, they start to raise their consciousness, their dreams start to feel more and more real. It becomes just as real as this experience. That's because it is. But when your consciousness is rooted in the third dimension, it's very hard for you to perceive that fourth dimensional perception of where your consciousness is going. This is why I said you need to obtain light to go to the higher realms that's above even the dream realm. But the dream realm is just like the spirit realm. It's another realm. It's just so much to it though. So when you're visualizing, it's like daydreaming. Seeing it in your mind's eye, remember, as above, so below. Everything is pulled down from the fourth dimension, aka the dream world, before it's in the third dimension. Anything that a person created in the physical, they had to see it in their mind's eye first, hence meaning it was already created somewhere else, because your mind is still connected to that realm. It was created somewhere else in order for them to even imagine and perceive it here. So that is why if you visualize the Merkaba around you, while the deep breathing is to make you present, you're adding energy to it. You're solidifying it. Now look, bringing the symbol to your awareness to see it, right? It helps program the subconscious mind. So just having the symbol around, right? I actually have a Merkaba on my laptop. Shout out to my lady again who got me that sticker. And she didn't even know what the symbol was. Crazy, right? It's crazy. I was already working on this presentation when she gave me that sticker. She didn't even know what the symbol was. It was a bunch of different symbols. She knew some other ones, but she didn't know that one. Now look, this helps bring light into your aura and change your vibration, right? When you're bringing light into your aura, you're naturally changing your vibration, right? Practicing this expands your chakras, which makes it easier for your Kundalini energy to naturally rise. It is about grounding yourself in life on earth, but also remembering where you come from. This is why they talk about the top tetrahedron, and it's pointing upwards to divinity, to the higher self, to that divine intelligence. Then the bottom one is pointing down to the earth for that earthly intuitive wisdom. So y'all have heard me say in the past, if you watch my videos in the past, don't be so spiritually high that you're no earthly good. The Merkaba represents that balance, just like that's why it starts at the heart chakra, like with the Taurus field, because the Taurus field is the bridge. We're in a human experience. We're not supposed to neglect the human. There's a misconception of being enlightened and raising your consciousness to where you disconnect completely from the human. No, you just have to understand you are more than a human. You're a soul inside the body, but you still have the body is still an extension of the soul. You're still attached to the body while you're here, so you still gotta, you know what I mean? You can't just treat it like a meat suit. This is the path to spiritual enlightenment that connects your body to the divine. The Merkaba plus the Taurus field. As you see this picture here, I told y'all earlier, the flower of life is a representation, a 2D top-down representation of the Taurus field, and you can find almost any geometric symbol inside of the Taurus field. Everything is connected, family. And as you see here, the Merkaba is in the flower of life. The Merkaba is directly connected to the flower of life, which is found in ancient temples and manuscripts across the world. You can find almost any symbol, like I just said, inside the flower of life, like the Merkaba. It is the symbol of interconnectedness of all life and unity in the universe. It shows the pattern of creation, how everything emerges. The Taurus field is the flow of energy. The Merkaba is the structure. So remember we said, two tetrahedrons, one pointing down, one pointing up, they're spinning opposite directions. That creates the Taurus field, which is your aura. The Merkaba is what generates and stabilizes the Taurus field. This is why the Merkaba is considered the divine light vehicle, because it is the structure that holds together your aura. I'm giving you information. I'm giving you $1 million worth of game. People literally go to secret schools for this type of information, family. This is divine esoteric knowledge. I'm putting you onto game right now. This is the type of stuff that you're supposed to pay for. This stuff took me years. It took me years. And I'm still blessed because it didn't take me as long as it takes other people to be able to put these pieces together, right? So here's the summary, family. Everything is energy, and a human being is made up of two types, right? Masculine and feminine. The key to ascension is balancing those energies so one can align with their true self. You will never align if you are still feeding into the false identity, family, that the matrix is programming you to think is how you are supposed to be. Instead of being your natural self, you're supposed to follow your divinity and obtain divine light, high vibrational information. Everything is information. Everything is energy. Your aura is taking in information. Your subconscious mind is taking in information every second. Light is the high vibrational kind of information, aka energy. A man who steps out of the false masculinity and into his divine masculinity, paired with a woman who steps into her divine femininity, are the perfect match and create harmony. Obviously, they're the perfect match. Opposites attract because they are the perfect match. Because two sides are literally opposites. So when they come together, they're a match because they create the wholeness of something. They're each other's other half. A high vibrational environment that will support each other in their growth and ascension. The divine feminine and the divine masculine are supposed to be counterparts that support each other. These energies must be balanced to have a balanced heart. You must have that energy balanced within yourself. I'm not saying you have to be in a relationship. You have to just recognize these energies and have it balanced within yourself. Being with a person who has that same understanding and that same balance, y'all are only going to benefit from each other, right? That's harmony. Energies must be balanced to have a balanced heart. An unbalanced heart cannot obtain divine light. You can't. Your energy is negative. You're not obtaining no light. The information you are obtaining is taking away your light. balance, harmony, self-love, inner peace, compassion, self-sovereignty, right? Self-authority, which is pretty much almost the same thing. All are pieces to the puzzle of your divine essence and remembering what it's like to be a god. I just gave y'all all the game. Like, I don't even have to make any more videos. I ain't even gonna say that, because I could get deeper. To be honest, I'm just breaking it down in a simple way. But honestly, I had to go through this to myself, is that sometimes you gotta get deeper to really, you know what I'm saying? For you to really get it, for real. Because I could tell you all I want, but you gotta experience it. Experience is the best teacher. But trust me, family, as you continue to raise your vibration, this is the natural way of things. So family, it is important to balance the energies within your body. Have compassion for one another. Work on yourself, love yourself, be your true authentic self. Become divine, embrace divine energy, and do not settle for anybody who does not represent the same thing. Because together, the divine masculine and the divine feminine create harmony, and together you can both assist each other and support each other to obtain light. If you rather be single, that's cool, as long as you're staying in your divine energy and obtaining light. This is why I say old soul family, because a younger soul is not even going to be able to comprehend this. This is important because an older soul is about ready to, you know what I'm saying, to move on. That's one of the reasons why a younger soul can't comprehend this. They're not meant to. Their soul, honestly, they have a lot more to learn. Their soul wants to experience a lot more. Their soul probably want to come down here a couple more times. Whether you learn how to ascend in this day and age, you're pretty close if you're watching me. And you made it this far, you're pretty close. At the very least. But I just gave y'all game, family. When you really think about it, a lot of this will be common sense, but they bury, like I said before, your natural state is enlightenment, but it's buried under false programming. This is why they have to constantly bombard us and keep us distracted, and it's an ongoing cycle, because you will start to realize things. You will start to learn things. Like I said, when you are rooted in the matrix is meant to keep you away from your natural intuition, your natural divine intelligence. Divine intelligence is meant to keep you away from your divine intelligence and not have discernment. Because that's how you're going to ascend out of here. And they don't want you to ascend out of here. That's part of the game, family. You came down here knowing, because to your soul, like on the higher level, like you're like a god. Like you came down here knowing, like, look, that sounds fun. Let's see how long it takes me to get out, to get back to my higher self. But this is one of the ways to do so. And I'm talking about the Merkaba, the divine light body. But no matter what, your heart needs to be balanced. And you cannot have a balanced heart if you do not understand what it truly means to be a divine feminine or to be a divine masculine, or to have the balance of them both within your energy and within your relationship. But that's it for today, family. Stay tuned, because we got a lot more on the way. I love y'all.